Hey guys, so I just thought I would make a quick little video on my ex-vegan story. Um, and I know it's kind of like a big trend right now. Everybody is talking about, how they basically went from vegan and then went carnivore and everything was like all hunky-dory. So, not that I have the exact same story, but I just really wanted to get out there my experiences with being vegan, because it's been quite an adventure, to say the least. So I started out as a vegan. Gosh, what year was that? My son was born in 2014, and I was vegan for about almost 2 years before I had him. Not quite, it was like more like a year and a half. No, maybe closer to that. Anyway, so I would say it was probably about 2012, 2013 that I started going vegan. And the reason I had done that was because I was drastically overweight. I was about 300 pounds when I was like, holy crap, something needs to change. I need to get my life together. And I saw a couple documentaries on, like how the farm animals and everything were treated, and just like kind of like the cruel conditions and like factory farming stuff, all sorts of things that like spoke to my heart. And I was like, this is so sad. I cannot believe I'm a supporter of all this. So naturally I started like looking up some like videos on YouTube and looking up people who had lost a lot of weight. And there were a lot of people back at that time losing weight for being vegan. And also there were quite a few documentaries out. Like I want to say there are at least like 2 or 3 more like of the like iconic ones. And they weren't always like, they didn't have like vegan titles like, eat animals and you're gonna die kind of stuff, but it was more like kind of like they were a little more deceptive when it comes to that. Like they showed you some real things that have happened. Like I'm not going to deny that things that happened in some of those documentaries, like that they didn't happen, because they absolutely do. Like factory farming, that's a real thing. There are always people out there who are going to lack integrity and who are going to treat animals basically like shit. So those things totally happen, but they kind of lure you in. Like they make you feel really bad for the animals, which, I love animals. Most people love animals. So yeah, if you see an animal being treated like that, you're going to feel bad. So, yeah, so I felt bad for the animals. And then of course they're showing all these people. I want to say like High Carb Hannah was really popular at the time amongst some other ones. And I started following her and I was like, holy smokes, look at this chick. Like she's lost so much weight being vegan, and she's probably like, so many animals have been helped, by going vegan. So I tried that. And I just kind of like went off the deep end, basically. Before I even get into the whole veganism thing, I just want to stress like how important it is to be like in a good mental state before you invoke on any sort of like a weight loss adventure. I have a very like addictive personality when it comes to like food and stuff like that. That's clearly how I got to be so overweight in the first place, is by binge eating and having a very unhealthy relationship with food. So that already started me off in a bad place. And then a vegan diet to me was very restrictive, but I kind of took control in that, and I was like absolutely loving how restrictive things were and like how in control I felt. I was able to turn down like animal products left and right. I was that preachy vegan basically, who everywhere I went like announced that I was vegan. And oh man, looking back on it, how embarrassing. And just like I was one of those like just factories spewing random facts and stuff like that. Just like any chance I had, like, well, did you know milk this and that? Like it was pretty bad. But long story short is, in the first, I think it was 8 months, I had dropped my first 100 pounds. So yeah, that's a lot of weight to lose. It wasn't all the vegan diet. I was absolutely ridiculous about going to the gym. I went to the gym every day for 6 days of the 7 days of the week. And I was there for at least an hour or two at a time doing mostly cardio. Actually, I don't think I started any weight stuff for like the longest time. It was all cardio because I was convinced that that was how I would lose the most weight. So I went vegan. So I went on a restrictive diet. I went to the gym an excessive amount. Like nobody really, like unless you're an athlete or something like that, like nobody really needs to be in the gym for an hour or two almost every day of the week. Like that's pretty, I mean, that's pretty ridiculous for the average person. Sorry, like every time I make a video of any sort or I'm talking to a friend on the phone, I get like a little hair that wants to stick to my lips or something. But yeah, so yeah, quite strict. Lost a lot of weight. Felt really good, had a lot of energy. And then I want to say within like 4 months of like losing all that weight, so like about a year after I became vegan, then I got pregnant with my son. And before I wasn't trying to have my son, it just kind of like naturally happened. And at first I took that as a really good sign, like, oh, veganism like restored my body and I must be really healthy if I'm fertile and that sort of a thing. That's a whole nother video for another time about how wrong I was in that department. I definitely did not do my body fertility favors by going vegan, as I am now struggling with infertility. And I'm only, oh goodness, how many years has it been? I stopped being vegan right before I went keto. So now I've been doing a ketogenic diet for quite a bit. I started that July of last year, so that would have been July of 2018. So probably I've been away from the vegan diet for a bit over a year now. Probably about a year and a half is when I finally gave up. But getting to that, so like I lost a whole lot of weight. I lost half my body weight. I was 300 pounds. I got down to about 150, which I know still sounds kind of high to some people, but I should be able to post some photos at some point. I definitely was very thin for my frame. I didn't really have a whole lot of muscle structure or anything because I didn't realize like there's such thing as being skinny fat. And I believe I went from overweight to what would be now considered skinny fat. I lost a whole lot of my strength. Like I used to be a Hulk when I was overweight, and like I know there is something behind having extra weight and having some extra strength, but I've met a lot of like really overweight people with like literal to no strength. So I must have had some muscle at that point too. And whatever muscle I had must have been lost because, oh my goodness, I became such a weakling in my opinion, compared to what I was used to being able to do. And then came a point where I started slipping. I never like slipped on being vegan. I was very like strict about that. But what happened is like the foods that I had typically been eating they didn't satisfy me anymore. I started eating more. I got like a little lazy on restricting calories. I was a mom at that point and I was working a job. So like the gym, that was almost impossible. And we moved quite a bit away from where all the gyms with childcare were. So I didn't have childcare for gym anymore. And I started eating a lot more, like, because when you're vegan, you're told that like basically anything vegan is healthy. You can eat as much of it as you want. There's really no way to overeat, right? That's kind of like high Carb Hannah's like motto, like, all these carbs are so good for you, eat what you want and stuff like that. I think later on she did come out and say that like you need to still be mindful, but back at the time, like she was talking about how much weight she lost eating what she felt her body needed, what she was craving, that sort of thing. So I started eating like a whole bunch of sweet potato fries and just like eating like vegan, like processed packaged foods and stuff, which is something I didn't do in the beginning. In the beginning, I was very like, whole foods about it. And I started to gain some weight back like naturally. And even before that happened, I started losing motivation for the gym, even if I had had it available, because I was so like, I had lost my energy. So that was about 3 years into being vegan by that point. It was about a year after I had my son where I really noticed that like, wow, like I just don't have any energy. I would fall asleep sitting up. Yeah. And then my teeth started actually like chipping. I still have like little permanent, like little dings in my teeth from where like they chipped, like just when I was like doing nothing. All of a sudden, like my teeth just like started to crumble a little bit. And I was like, well, that's odd. It's like I've always had like some of the strongest teeth in my family, along with my dad. He and I have known for having like really strong teeth in the family. And I was like, wow, why are my teeth crumbling? Why am I so tired? You know, all of that. And of course, I still was not straying from my diet. I tried to push it on my boyfriend at the time. And he was very much a good sport about trying it, but I'm pretty sure whenever he left, he probably went and ate a whole bunch of meat because he probably felt like, I did later on find out that he felt like I was like starving myself with the amount of food I ate, which was more than what I had been eating. I thought I was eating too much, but still, like, I guess I was still calorie restricting to a point, even though I was lazy about it. So, but yeah, and also too, mentality. I believe that some of the reason I gained back weight even while I was still being vegan was because I didn't mentally deal with everything that I needed to. I still had a really unhealthy relationship with food. And very much when I look back on it, I was more of a binge eater. Even when I was dieting and losing weight, like I could only be strict for so long, and then I would binge, and then I'd feel guilty, and then I'd go back to like super restricting. And I think now, looking back on it, some of the reason that I've not been able to break that binging is because my body was not being nourished. Because I mean, let's really think about it here. Like, if your body's getting everything it needs, which supposedly a vegan diet can provide, right? Why would you be having such cravings if you're eating when you feel like you're hungry and you're getting all your, you know, nutrients? Yeah, and it did not happen for me. Even with all the juicing in the world, I was finding I was falling asleep sitting up. I couldn't even read a book. I was getting some workouts in, like I started running. Like my dad would watch my son for a while, and I would just like run, like literally just run for as long as I could up and down the road as many times as I could. And it was a battle, like such a battle. So I finally realized that just about a year and a half ago, I was like, well, you know what? This just like isn't working for me. Something like it's just not working. I'm always tired. My teeth are brittle. I have like crazy brain fog. Oh my goodness, the brain fog. I thought that was mom brain and that it would never go away. So not true. Like even right now I have like no notes or anything like that. I'm probably not even going to edit this video because for one, I don't know how to edit. And two, I just don't find myself like, you know, completely all crazy. Like, yeah, it might be a little unorganized, but this is nothing compared to the brain fog I had. Like I was always constantly walking into a room, forgetting what I was doing all the time. I went to school for physics for quite a few years. A lot of that knowledge became like all jumbled up in my brain. I couldn't recall it. It was really, really devastating because I have been a complete science and math nerd since about 7th grade when I first learned about string theory. Once again, that's a whole nother story for a different day. But yeah, all the knowledge that I had been like building in my brain over the years, it was just like where is it? I was like reaching to the clouds for it, couldn't find it, couldn't figure out what I was doing walking from one room to another. And I was like, I should just try something else. Like I really should just try something else and see how it feels. So keto was not super popular, at least not from what I was aware of about a year and a half ago. And I remember hearing about it and I was like right away, like, no, that's stupid. Like you can't put your body in a state of that. Like I was always told my whole life, your brain runs on sugars and carbs, and like, how are you supposed to function if you're not giving your body that? I didn't know anything about, how your body converts things and how, you know what I mean? Like I just didn't know any of the actual science behind how your body takes what it needs for energy. So I right away wrote it off. And then so I went back to calorie restricting and trying to like exercise. But at that point I was like, I've got to find a way to lose weight where exercise isn't like the main thing, because I'm not always going to have time to exercise. Like my weeks vary. I'm a stay-at-home mom now. But I am like working on running a business and stuff like that. And I do homeschool my child, and my husband works out of town in a different state. So you know, like we're always kind of on the go, and it's summer, and I get like some natural activity obviously in the summer, but I don't want to spend hours at a gym to lose weight. I want it to be maintainable this time because obviously I've gained some weight back. I've gained about 50 pounds back, and that's way too much. Like, granted, I'm not 300 pounds like I used to be, super grateful for that. But I'm really working on like restoring my mind and stuff, and like getting a really healthy relationship with food, so I'm not going to be struggling the rest of my life. But anyways, getting back to it. So keto wasn't like super popular, and I wrote it off, and I just, you know, I tried my own thing, and like I went up and down. I had some success, I gained some back. And then finally I gave in. I was like, you know what? I was like, I'll just try keto, because I saw so many great testimonies at that point. I was starting to really stir up, and I was like, okay, all these people are losing weight. So here I went and took the same route I did with going into veganism. I was like, oh, it's working for all these people. Maybe it can work for me. But I was so against it because I thought it was so bad for you that I was like, I'm going to use this short term. I'm only going to do keto until I lose the weight, and then I will just maintain it with a regular diet. I was actually thinking about going back to veganism. I was like, I'll just lose the weight and then go back to being vegan, because it still was not clicking in my brain that veganism was not working for me. So I tried keto. The first day I started was, I believe, like July 3rd of last year. I remember it was right before 4th of July, and everybody the next day was trying to like get me to eat all this like 4th of July food and the cupcakes, and you know, and I was like, nope, I'm day 2 into my diet. I'm not ruining this. I'm going to eat the chicken, and, you know, to heck with these cupcakes. Like, I was being so, I was trying to be so stubborn about it. Sorry, I just saw like a bee fly outside the window, and I'm terrified of bees. It's outside though, so I shouldn't worry. But yeah, so I'm just like, I will just do this. And so I started it. And about 3 months in, I was feeling like really great. I actually felt great doing keto from the get-go. I want to say I was miserable for maybe 3 days because I had major sugar cravings. And then after those, the bee's still trying to get in. After those 3 days passed, I felt really great. I started being able to read books without falling asleep. And mind you, my doctor had diagnosed me with a mild form of narcolepsy. Literally mild form of narcolepsy, meaning that like I would just fall asleep randomly. I could fall asleep sitting up. I've fallen asleep in the shower. I fall asleep reading books. That's part of the reason I had a hard time in college was because I couldn't read all my books because I'd fall asleep. Thank goodness I had some brains in my head. Otherwise, I don't know how I would have made it. But yeah, so all of a sudden I was able to read books. I wasn't falling asleep sitting up. I had energy to do things, and I was like, oh wow, this is really weird. I wasn't expecting all this. I was expecting it to be really hard and for me to lose a lot of weight really fast, and then I would go back to something, you know, easy. Needless to say, I'm still doing keto, and while I would say that the weight loss I've had from it has been slower than when I'm vegan, I can drop a lot of weight being vegan. It's really easy for me to drop weight. For one, the foods aren't as appealing, so you're not as tempted, but also they're very like, you know, like they just don't have a lot of calories unless you're eating a lot of the grains and the processed stuff. And towards the end of my vegan stuff, I had realized that grains weren't very good anyways. So then it left me with like barely anything to eat. So I was always constantly hungry, and because I wasn't being nourished, I was binging constantly. And yeah, so I ended up really liking the keto diet. And then I even went on to try carnivore. I actually didn't lose any weight doing carnivore. I tried it for about 2 months straight. And I know that's not always like enough time to try everything, but I was like, well, we'll try it for 2 months. And then it turns out that I just really craved like certain vegetables, not all of them. I'm very aware of like oxalates and what some of the vegetables have that could be depriving me of nutrients rather than getting all the nutrients that I see in the nutrition label. But there are just like certain things that I crave. Like I still crave a salad once in a while. I still crave like my broccoli and, you know, things like that aren't always the best. Well, some people would say they're really great, but from a carnivore standpoint, they're not. So right now I'm kind of like in the midst. I'm still doing keto for the most part. I do have my cheat meals once in a great while. But I try to keep that to a minimum still, because I'm still working on strengthening my brain, and I don't want to, you know, get into bad habits of like doing keto and then having a bunch of cheats, because that defeats the purpose. But yeah, I will briefly get into the infertility thing because that will need its own video. But we have been trying for a baby for about 3 years now. I was vegan for almost all of it. And then we actually did conceive last year. It was about, so July, August, September, October, November. So we conceived about 5 months into me doing keto, which was amazing because literally we had tried for a couple of years before that. And there's nothing wrong with us. We have, you know, the unexplained infertility, which to me means like we just haven't figured out what's wrong with you. But you know what I mean? But they're not seeing anything. But yeah, so 5 months after going keto and dropping all the sugar and like having my hormones level out more, which is something that keto is also great for, is leveling out your hormones. And yeah, so then we got pregnant. I did lose the baby and miscarry, but at this point I'm still super thrilled that even that happened, because it restored my faith that like it reminded me that like what I'm doing must be good, you know. I'm making progress and I'm getting a lot healthier and my body is slowly recovering. So the recovery process has been pretty interesting for sure. And I know what you're going to think too, like, oh, okay, you're having infertility. Some of that I was keto for, but I did just recently get pregnant, even though I lost it. But what I want to emphasize is the infertility happened while I was vegan. Yes, I did conceive a son while I was vegan, but I was only about 8 months into it when I conceived him. 8 months to like a year. It wasn't very long that I was vegan, and I was very overweight. So naturally, your body loses a whole bunch of weight. You increase some of your fertility chances. And then on top of that, I still had some weight on me. I think my body was still being nourished by the vitamins that were stored in my fat tissue at the time. I don't think being vegan is what made me get pregnant. I think I lost the weight from being vegan, but I still had the nutrients in my body because I still had some fat on me. Yeah, that's that's why I think that veganism did not do anything good for my fertility. Like I used to look back on and think that was true, but that's also before I knew how your fat stores a lot of those vitamins from the animal products. So that was probably what saved me, to be honest. I'll have to make a whole big video about my infertility and veganism though, because it affected breastfeeding and so much more, like so much more. I can't even get into it right now. I don't want to make this a very long video. I just want to encourage those of you who have tried a vegan, you know, lifestyle, or who are currently doing it and you're not getting the results you want, literally just try something else. It doesn't mean you have to go straight carnivore. I just did that to experiment. I have, you know, Scandinavian ancestry, and presumably they would have had like a pretty heavy carnivore diet. So I thought I would try that for me. And personally, I just crave some of the vegetables. I do find myself eating like less and less vegetables, to be honest, but I still like to have them once in a while. So I still do for the most part. Yeah. So, but I would encourage you to try something different, even if it is just, you know, even if you don't want to give up being vegan, like try getting rid of some of those sugars. Maybe go to like more vegetable based or something. Try and add in some like plant fats like avocado. I know there's not a whole lot, because like nuts and legumes aren't always the best thing either. But like just don't do all the sugar and the juicing like I did. I was like juicing like a maniac, having so much sugar. Like I said, I couldn't even stay awake. That's how much sugar I had probably been consuming. And all the vegan like sugar bars, and I was eating, you know, I did stop honey, but I was like all over like agave syrup. It was ridiculous. But yeah, totally just try something different. And I would suggest, if you're going to try anything different, get rid of like carbs and sugar. Seriously, it's made such a difference. You don't even have to go, you know, keto like the hype. Just try maybe like a low carb diet, because I have found that I can lose so much weight when I stick to a low carb diet without even effort of exercising, you know, and that makes it very maintainable. if I don't have to like physically exercise to lose the weight, I will more likely keep it off, you know, because if I have a week where I'm sick and I get thrown off the bandwagon, well, guess what? It's my diet that's behind it. And they say diet is behind most of weight loss anyways, you know. The gym is only so much. You can't just eat like Burger King and McDonald's all the time, go to the gym and expect to be healthy. You know, it doesn't work that way. You have to work on your diet first. So, but yeah, if you have any questions about like my vegan experience, it's been quite a few years. Like how many years would that be? You know, 2012, let's say 2013 and be conservative. So 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I quit it at the very beginning of last year, 6 months before I discovered keto. And well, I shouldn't say discovered, 6 months before I gave into trying it. So I was vegan for a good 5 years, to be conservative. It probably was a little longer, but we'll just say 5 years I was vegan. Oh, and another quick tidbit about being vegan. I got a whole bunch of cavities while I was vegan. And since I have given that back up, my teeth have stopped crumbling. So that's really awesome. They're feeling really strong. And even more so, I had two cavities when I was pregnant with my son that I couldn't get fixed because obviously I was pregnant. And then I kind of ignored them afterwards because I was like, oh, well, maybe they will go away. And sure enough, they hadn't. I finally found out I still had the cavities. But then we had some money issues, so I wasn't able to get them fixed. And happy to say now they're completely gone. So I am pretty convinced that getting away from the sugar allowed my body to properly heal what was broken. So yeah, so those cavities are gone too. That's another huge reason why I say get rid of the sugar and the carbs, because those things clearly, no matter how many times you brush your teeth, because I had a liner, so I was brushing my teeth all the time. It was not like for lack of hygiene, you know. It was lack of nutrition able to nourish the bones and the teeth and everything like that. So, but yeah, feel free to ask me any questions about my vegan experience and also like my keto or carnivore experience. I'm trying to think of how to say this. This channel will probably be pretty random. I don't plan to make a whole bunch of videos all on one subject, you know, unless somebody's got some curiosities or some questions that need to be answered or that you'd like to hear. But I'm just basically reopening my channel. It's always just been like a private thing for me, and I really don't even have anything of value on here at this point. But I just really have like so much to say and so many topics and things that I feel like people could benefit from hearing. I go on YouTube to get advice for things all the time. Like I love hearing other people's experiences and stuff like that. And I just want to be able to contribute to that. So hopefully I will be able to reach some of you who are struggling with things that I've struggled with, because let me tell you, I have struggled with so much that I literally have so much testimony to get out there for you guys. And I'm just not talking religious testimony. I'm talking like testimony for all the struggles I've had in my life. There has been so many that I feel that many of you could benefit from hearing. I do have quite a bit of advice for things and how I overcame a lot of those troubles. But also sometimes it's just nice to hear that somebody else struggled with the same thing as you. Not that we should all bask in it and wallow in our sorrows, but I know personally, I find comfort in knowing that I'm not alone in my struggles. So if that's you, feel free to comment or message me. I would love to hear from you. And really, like, I will put my humanity out there. I am a very, very human person. I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned a lot. I've come a long way, and I've still got a ton more way to go. Like, I'm not even close to where I'm going to be, 10 years from now. I can't wait to meet me 10 years from now. I bet you I will have so much more wisdom than I even do now. It's amazing. And I have more now than I did when I was 20. For those of you who don't know, I am 30, and I was dreading turning 30 for the longest time. So, I've just recently come to terms with how beautiful it is to be 30, to be honest. So, yeah, I will leave it at that. I'm not going to blabber on for too much longer. I hope you will come back and hear some more of the trials and tribulations I have been through. And yeah, just like feel free to comment, message, let me know what you want to hear. what you have questions on, all that. And I will talk to you later. Bye.